Subscribe to the Mystic Vibrations Shock of the Hour program today and never miss another episode. The Shock of the Hour is a Radio Anu exclusive program produced every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By now, I am sure that you are aware that all our programs are packed with information, inspiration, mystic vibrations, as well as hot button topics. Every evening we enter into a different dimension, even if it is a part 2 of the previous program, whether it's history or mystery, biology or philosophy, domestic affairs or the locks of your hair. The mystic vibration is sure to bring something new and interesting to the table every evening. So never miss another episode again. Subscribe to the Shock of the Hour now. And don't forget your key Swahili word of the day and your daily scientific fact. So, to subscribe, give us an email, priestisaac27@gmail.com, or call or WhatsApp us today. Area code 1268-728-3162. The Shock of the Hour. Never miss another program. And a special note to all our new subscribers. All our new subscribers will receive a special copy of the DVD documentary, full length, The Night of the Black Tiger, The Divinity of Marcus Messiah God. Holy Manuel Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari, as we definitely give thanks for your presence with us. Of course, you know the shock of the hour is at hand. Honorable Priest Isaac, we're bidding you welcome into the Tiger's Nest. Once again, we're thankful for the energy and we're thankful for the flow. And what I'm going to do this evening, I'm not even going to waste any time. I'm going straight into the subject at hand. And I must say this evening for sure is a lesson. This is going to be a lesson specifically, so I'm looking for those who are serious about such. No offense to no one, because ain't everybody serious, eh? Just know that not because you go on the mountain and you give a sermon and you have 1,000 people, the whole 1,000 didn't come to learn. Some of them came to criticize. Some of them came to see what you say wrong. Some of them came for other reasons. But because of the nature of this subject, and it's one of those topics where, those who genuinely want to know would have asked. So I'm going to, definitely try my utmost to concentrate on those who I know desire to know the truth. Those who I know desire to know the right. So the reasoning we will be speaking about not just the divinity of Haile Selassie first, but one of the questions ones would ask is Haile Selassie the Almighty? Now, you could add the Almighty God if you want to, but to me Almighty kind of covers it, especially with the language and understanding. Now obviously we have our first official full-length documentary, which is The Master of Ceremonies. I'm sure we all have seen The Master of Ceremonies for sure. And I think you all know what's the subtitle for The Master of Ceremonies. The subtitle of The Master of Ceremonies is The Divinity of Emperor Haile Selassie I. Now, of course, when you understand that science, usually when people ask me about being a Rasta, Rastafari, and Rasta, or Rastaman, and all these different terms, I usually would tell an individual that, to be honest, a Rastafari is a person who accepts the divinity of Emperor Haile Selassie I. And of course, that might be, it's simple, just simple to the point, but yet still is broad because it covers a lot, So then now, when you enter into the realms of Rastafari, because in my book, I see Rastafari as a movement, I still see Rastafari as a culture, you understand? Yet at the same time, you still see Rastafari as a theology within itself, Some of us, we make it a religion too. But a theology, a study of the Most High, a study of nature, and a study of the prime mover. And since Haile Selassie obviously is in the conversation, I would like to, going forward, highlight something that Emperor Haile Selassie said. And it is the importance of us seeing the need for a prime mover, for a creator. And now what that shows me is that there is a prime mover. There is a creator. There is a sustainer. Now when you study, gotta follow me good, eh? When you study the different outlooks of life, the different liberties and theology and even religion, but when you study the science of theology itself, which is more than religion, this may sound strange to you, but the Most High is not necessarily the creator. And you'll be like, what? I don't understand. And I've highlighted this before. And what you could do, you could touch upon even the book of Enoch. And Enoch speaks about in the 10th heaven, where he saw the God, really, God, G-O-D, because remember, one of the mystics with Enoch, It is so interesting how we like to quote things and put our life on the line for certain things. People try to bash me sometimes for the book of Enoch. Oh, book of Enoch, you don't talk about the book of Enoch. Well, I guess you don't listen that much. But yet still, the same book of Enoch tells you when Enoch was on the 7th heaven, Enoch saw the Lord. That's what it says, the Lord sitting on his throne. And when the angel came and said, well, Enoch, let's go now. We are going on the way to the 10th. Enoch was like, going where? What can be on the 10th? When the Lord is here on the 7th. Interesting number. And they said, well, Enoch, on the 10th heaven is God. Oh, all right. So Enoch himself, he thought the show was done because he saw the Lord. And they said, no, there's more to see than this. He thought he saw, to use the term, the head honcho. But there's more than that. So Enoch went up higher and saw the God now, who according to the book of Enoch had like a face like iron, emitting sparks. Like you can't stare too long. So when this God now spoke to Enoch, he showed Enoch, well, I'm going to open the books to you and show you the secrets of creation. And this God said that he was all by himself. There was no one with him. He was all alone. And then he called down this great belly of light. And the name given to this belly of light was Adowil. And the God said that within the midst of the light, the belly of light, he, the God, came out of Adowil as if born from Adowil, but in another form. It's right there in the book of Enoch. And then he created all things that you see. Now, follow me good. Obviously, it's the same person that's talking, the God. But I'm just trying to show you that he himself in that narrative is explaining to you that he, if you want to say, called down this body of existence, the primordial waters, this body of light. And then out of the body of light, he came in a new form. And then in that new form, in that stage of himself, then he created all things. You follow that. Now, obviously, again, this is something we have spoken of with a little more depths. So I'm not going to wrestle it here. Because you see, sometimes we got to really take this thing serious, man. This ain't no joke. We ain't here to play patty cake. You know, this ain't no guess game. Sometimes the information, you see, we lay down the information very strategically. And it's all there that we can go and research and go back to what was said previously, even up to a year ago. And everything is still intact because, I mean, my philosophy and my outlook on things have never changed. Never changed. So you could still return to understand that science. It's the same thing when it says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And yet still the Word was God. And if you read that chapter and verse properly, or the chapter, we're talking about the book of John now. When it speaks about in the beginning was the Word. Remember, the Word is what is spoken. And when we open the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewedo manual, it showed that the Word obviously represents Christ. And the Word is spoken, you know, the Word is uttered. So we have the Word of God is considered to be the Christ. In another realms, the Word of God is the unseen God manifested in a human form. This is mathematics, really. It is science. So this Word of God now, according to the Bible, there wasn't anything that was made that was not made by this Word of God. So the Word of God is seen or styled in this fashion as the creative force. Not necessarily the God that spoke the Word, but the Word that was spoken created all things. It's just like in the book of Enoch. The God himself, all by himself, and he called the light, and out of this light he came and created all things. And you may say, but it's the same God. I have no problem with that. You hear what you say? I hope you remember that as we continue. It's the same God, but on a different level, on a different stage, obviously. Now, I'm just saying, so we are throwing around the words God and all of these different things, you know. And sometimes for conversation, we can just go through, I got no problem. But sometimes when we want to crack the nut and to get to the nitty gritty, I think we have to kind of, you know, let it be known to the listeners, the audience, and those who we are conversing with, how we're going to handle some of these words. So obviously, you know, I did a whole lecture on YouTube, Is Jesus God? You know, and you could take that different ways just because of the corrupt language they have us speaking. Is Jesus God? You know, but then who's God? And you know, although we know God is the Most High and the Almighty and the Creator of all things, that's God, omnipotent and omnipresent, and here and there and everywhere, and He knows every thought and all of that. So that's God. But yet still, if we really research God, God is Oden of the Norse philosophy. Oden, the horned, one-eye, Viking-looking God. Odin and Thor, when you speak of God, really, it's them fellas you're talking about. And that is really the truth. I understand. I understand. Remember, I used the word too. So I comprehend that we have maybe matured. We have no matured. We don't even know what's going on. They have taken the name of Oden and placed it on the supreme being, the supreme life-giving force. I like to call it the intelligent nucleus. Follow me good? That has all things in order. So in other words, just like when people try to describe God, they think of the deepest sea. They think of the highest heavens. They think of the biggest, the farthest planets and stars in the galaxy. And they say God is all-compassing. Some people tell you God can't be a man, but yet still they tell you God came down on the mountain in a thick cloud and fire and all of that. Now to us in our little miniature form, a mountain on fire and clouds and big lightning and a deep voice coming out of the clouds, that's good enough to catch some of us and say, yeah man, that's God for true. That's how I know they could fool us easy. But what is a little mountain on fire? Do you know the size of this universe? What is a little mountain on fire? Nobody can see that mountain there in the universe. What you talking about? So there is an intelligent, listen, nucleus. You can look at a leaf, a seed, life itself, human beings, animals, the raindrop, the snowflake, condensation and evaporation, the planets, the makeup of the planets, the solar system, other solar systems, the galaxy and the other galaxies, microbes, microscopic life, and the evolution of life itself from even stromatolite come up. And we're not talking Darwin, by the way. Things do evolve. So there must be, this is not anarchy here. Don't be foolish now. This is not anarchy. I understand you don't want to take the old-time religion philosophy and say, well, there's a God in heaven sitting on his holy throne, reigning over all things. I'm not forcing you to see that at all. But I think we all could agree that there must be an intelligent nucleus. Nobody can deny that. Let me see the crazy person that's going to try to deny that. Even if you're a so-called atheist, you have to agree. Just like how you have intelligence, and just like how your brother or your sister, the mosquito, the fly, the dog has an intelligence, the plant has an intelligence of its own. And just like you have an intelligence, you're made up of cells that have their own life, and some of them multiply and they even fight. Cells, trillions of cells that make you up, they have their own brain. And yet still they make you up. And you are what appears to be, like one person. Unique in thought to your own self. But you're made up of cells that have their own thought too. They do their own thing. You could see them under a microscope and you see what's going on. Yet still they make you up as one intelligent being. And it's the same way that we are all, and I don't mean just human beings, all life form that exists is a part of that intelligent nucleus. It only naturally makes sense. That is why life now, that is why I always tell people, I understand what you mean when you say my life, but nobody really has no life. It's not your life, it's life. It's not really your life like everybody got a life in their pocket. There's life. I don't even want to say one life, but there's just life. That's why life and love and live looks so similar. So there's life And within life, we all share life. So we all experience life. That is why we would say, give thanks for being in the land of the living. So the life force, even in the so-called schools, they teach us all kind of foolishness about rocks being non-living things. Listen, I'm telling you, brother. You see, a rock is a non-living thing. Since when? So I guess the wind is non-living too. You see, so we don't understand energy, life, motion, movements. So we have life down to animals and insects and people. And maybe a plant and a flower. It's much more than that. So that is why even if you can't even see the life in the sea, not the fish, the sea itself. So that means you can't even begin to think beyond a certain boundary to understand that there must be, not God, there must be an intelligent nucleus that has all things, number one, in motion. Creation plus motion, meaning that things had to evolve from something, whether it's from nothing or from one stage to the other stage over a period of time that you can't even measure. There is again a nucleus. If you notice, I'm stressing nucleus, a central point, not a place that you go and find the central point, but that central intelligence, so you can understand that there is a powerhouse. Don't try to bring it down on your level. Don't try to bring it in the 3D world. Don't try to bring it on this stage or whatever you want to call it, as if we have to go to a certain place and see the nucleus. The nucleus is all over. The center power of all existence. And it is, again, an intelligent force. And when I say intelligent force, just like the cells in your physical goodie or body, depending on what you're dealing with, just like the cells in your body seem to have their own intelligence, but yet still they make you up. You hearing me? They make you up and you think on your own. It is the same way that we all, and when I say we all, again, I don't mean just people. I mean all life form, that which has life. Some man, you cut down a tree and you take the wood and carve some sort of idol. That's why some people pray to idols, you know. You don't even know that in many cases there is life in the wood. That's a piece of wood. You didn't know what's going on here. So the life that we all share, that life is the so-called God. That oneness is the so-called God. But it's more than just the life. As I said again, it's that intelligence. That not just awareness and consciousness, but deep, not even deep, because the fact that you start to say deep and try to measure it, you're kind of polluting it. But let me just leave it as supreme. That supreme intelligence. How does this one sound? That all in all intelligence. So we can go for the big words that start with the O now. The omnificent and the omnipresent. And what else we kick around? Some of them But the pardon me, you know how it is. But the is God, you know. That's why even in the, not the Caribbean, but in Antigua, we have them kind of talk, bring is God. That's the humming sound. So you see the Buddhists in the monastery, vibrations, cutting and clearing and moving jinns and snares from out the way. Chorus humming. You see what I'm saying? Take the C off the chorus, you get the chorus. So I'm just showing you that the science now, the umbilical cord. So the omnipresent and everywhere and all thinking and all knowing and all seeing and all of them things there. Which human being have all them power there? I'm just asking. But we know that again, these attributes, they cannot go to waste. There must be an intelligence that is all seeing. Of course. The intelligence that has all things in existence. I don't mean the sun. I don't mean the black hole in the middle of the galaxy. Man, that's popcorn in comparison to what I'm talking about. I'm talking all things seen and unseen. Parallel worlds. So not just the world now, but the parallel world. And parallel worlds do exist. And I mean, I ain't gonna explain that. Again, no offense. Programs have been done on that in detail. Just go and research, because I know we have listeners. Listeners gonna always say, I don't believe in no parallel world. And sometimes if you're not wise, you stick the discussion on what they think. You ain't got no time for that. As I said, there's a class in session here. Not just a conversation. There's a class in session here. There are those who respect me enough, to sit in class knowing that we have passed chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're on chapter 6 and 7. So that is why you move on. Because I'm saying now, when we observe this whole thing, because this is where it's leading now, that this intelligence again, before we bring it down to the level that we know, Quran and Bible and anything that we know, anything, try to, bring it in a human form or give it an animal head, anything, before we bring it to them levels, it only makes sense that this nucleus is benevolent in all ways as well. Now you may say good. And you may say where there's good, there's evil. But the good and the evil vibration is of a totally different level when it comes to the understanding of what we're dealing with. So, for example, chaos, destruction. Do you know out of chaos, do you know out of destruction comes forth life? There's in certain realms, there's this phrase that is used when they say cosmics always collide. Cosmics always collide. These are just natural laws of, the cosmics. Always collide. So can you imagine, how do the scientists say that the universe was formed? They call it a big bang. So even in that big bang vibration, the bang alone tells you it's explosion and rocks licking into rocks. When you watch these space programs, they're teaching you how the universe was formed. You just see rocks crashing into one another and gluing together and forming a ball over, I guess, a period of time. But that's a lot of chaos. The earth was molten. That's a lot of chaos. They tell you a time you could never live around here. That's a lot of chaos. According to science, the sun is a couple billion years old, and he has a couple billion more years to go. We mean you have a couple billion more years to go. What you talking about? The sun? The same sun that rises and set? Have a couple billion years to go? Go where? Where is it going? So if the sun has a couple billion years to go, according to science, the sun is going to explode. This same sun here. Yeah. So wait. I know some of you saying, well, I ain't going to be here. How you know that? You don't even know what's going on in the cycle of life. Yeah? And that's how you think? What about your generations to come? You just up and you ain't going to be here and you leave it at that? You may be here. But what I'm saying now, if science is correct, and it only makes sense, if the sun at some time or the other has some sort of, whether it's explode or whether it's die out or whatever it does, any move the sun makes is going to have a serious effect on the 7 o'clock news. So we got to be seriously in tune with this now. So here we go. So the sun is going to explode one day. And where is that going to leave us? I'm just showing you the mystics that are around us, you know. That's why I say the cosmics out of chaos. Because that sounds chaotic. Out of chaos, even when you read Bible and you read Quran and you read other books and the apocalypse that come. The apocalypse, it may sound dreadful, but it's just clean out. The apocalypse cleans out the territory and a new world begins. The new world doesn't begin just so. You need fire, brimstone, or something, some heavy cleaning agents to get rid of this smut and smudge so you could get a cleaner environment. And that is just nature. Even sometimes a lot of people, you know, that is why certain sicknesses that we get are not even sicknesses. Sometimes you have a so-called cold, you better be glad you have the cold. So-called cold. Well, I mean, there's a difference between the cold and when you're cleaning out. You know, when you're cleaning out, maybe for 2 days, I'm sure it happens to some of you. You know, you wake up and you feel a little thing in your throat, and by mid-afternoon you're blowing and all sorts of mucus coming out. The next day it's out, and then you're clean again. Now, obviously, I know people going to say, well, you shouldn't put the mucus in. I understand, but think good with what I just explained. People don't usually go through that. When people get sick, they get sick. They have the cold for weeks sometimes. You understand? That is mucus trying to get out and having a hard time getting out. But yet still, when you regulate the physical properly, every now and again, it will just flow out. You know, it may take a day, and people will come and say, well, you're catching a cold, and they're happy to say that, you know. Oh, they're glad, oh, you're catching a cold. And when they come back tomorrow, wait, what happened to the cold? I never had no cold. You were just glad to see me have a cold so you could say, oh, you're eating so good and looking and sick. Yeah, people think weird. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but that's just the reality of it, you know. It's the same way when you catch a fever. Sometimes fevers are good. They have fevers that burn out cancers already, you know. They have people that had certain tumors and were given a certain diet and certain, you know, fasting techniques and certain things. And after a period of time, whether it's 17 or 14 days, maybe 21, the individual would just get this high fever, and maybe even call the herbalist and say, boss, something happening to me. So they feel they're sick. When the fever now burning out the cancer. And when they go back and check, the doctor say, boy, the tumor gone, you know, the cancer gone, the fever burned it out. But the fever look as if it appears as if it's something wrong. Because out of chaos, see, chaos is, out of chaos can come life, new beginning. As I said, cosmics will collide. I'm just drawing all of this for you, you know. The reason why I put that down is because we tend to say God is good. Same word, G-O-D, G-O-O-D. God is good. And people will tell you God is not evil. But yet still the Bible will tell you God say he created good and evil. This is just soul. This is when the Bible is a solar book. The Holy Bible. Holy is the Helios, the sun, solar. You know, so there's a science within it. You know, so there is creation and there's chaos. What we call evil, because we have the evil thing mixed up, you know, good and evil. That's why we look at Heru and Set, and we think Heru is Christ, and Set is like Satan or the devil, wherein now, in a sense, maybe he is. But then now, what is that really? You have to rub out the big man that under the earth with the big pot and the fork in his hand. You got to rub that out and understand that science. So, good. Now I think we covered that with understanding. There is a life giver. There is an intelligent nucleus. But which one of us have our degree in spirituality? We should all have 360 degrees in spirituality because we're spiritual people. People say, are you a spiritual man? I hope so, because I have a spirit. What, you're not a spiritual man? I'm spiritual and physical. You understand? But now, when we go back to our ancient traditions now, in our ancient traditions, we use that same science now of teaching to express this intelligent nucleus. And if you notice, in the African tradition, we always had what is known as the pantheon sort of expression. But now we tend to look at them as gods. So we would say Ogun is a god. Now we're dealing with the West African tradition, the Orishas, the Ogun. Ogun is the god of iron, we would say, the god of metalworks. Ogun, you see with the axe and the cutlass, Ogun. Then you have Oshun. If I'm not mistaken, Oshun color is yellow, and she rules over the water as well. Oshun, I think that's where you get the word ocean. Oshun, I'm telling you. So the Oshun and the Ogun, Obatala, these are, we would say gods, some of us would say deities, and then others now we tell you, no, these are none of the above. They are principles. So you have the Nomo of the Dogon people. You have the Netaru of Kemet. You have the Kepra. You have the Asa. You have the Heru. You have the Anpu. And we see them, especially coming out of the tradition that was given to us of Christianity. We see all of these things as just another version of a next religion, and these are their gods. That's the first thing we come to, that we are looking at somebody else's religion and we are observing their gods. So the Egyptian religion, their god name is Amun-Ra, and all of them kind of things, when it's not necessarily so. And the reason why I must separate from the term religion, because religion really, it's almost like the term racism, man. I don't see black people can be no racists, because of what racism is. It's not me. Listen, Francis Cress Welsing is my teacher. One of my teachers, our ancestor. So I don't know who is your teacher, And she taught me that the black man and woman do not have the ability, at least not now, to be racist. Racism is not necessarily an individual thing, It's a governmental thing, power thing, and it's equated to white supremacy, straight up, and that is exactly what it is. So that is why you have to use these terminology now in the right sense. So in the same way, when we look at the that context there, in the same way when we're using these words and giving them definition, that is why we have to be careful when we call them gods. You see what I'm saying? So their attributes. Yes, Heru the hawk. Heru is the hawk or the falcon, and to me, we got to be clear on that, because a hawk is not a falcon. They're two different birds. They don't fly the same. A hawk can do things a falcon can't do. But the point is, you may look at it and say, well, listen, a hawk flies high, and a hawk has vision, and a hawk can spot his prey from miles in the sky, and the hawk can stand still in the heaven like the sun and do all kind of things. And to me, that's a kindergarten level of all of this. It's true, but it's a serious kindergarten level of the understanding of the neter. So that is why now there's a deeper realms to that. I did again the Master of Ceremonies. And what did I do in the Master of Ceremonies? I showed in the Master of Ceremonies the direct connection with Asa, also known as Osiris, and Kadamawi Haile Selassie I. I showed that the prophecy of Osiris was definitely fulfilled in Emperor Haile Selassie I. I've done it with the Quran, that the fulfillment of the Isa ibn Maryam is Emperor Haile Selassie I. We have proven that, using the Quran, and that is why I am quote unquote convinced, although we had the Bible, but this is why I'm so sure that whatever situation we were in, we could have taken the book given to us and still find Haile Selassie, because he's in the Quran. I'm not asking you. This is not secondary information and like I heard it somewhere else. I've unraveled it. It's only some of you who just, you know what I mean, it's sad to say I don't know what's wrong with you. You just don't want to admit it, but I've unraveled it straight up. The science of Negajuna. Okay, let me make it sound nice. We have unraveled it. The science of Negajuna. The science of Shantideva. We have unraveled that as well. The night of the black tiger. The mask of Lord Pakal. The mask of Lord Pakal. The Tutankhamun science directly related to Haile Selassie. And we can go on and on. What else we unravel? The pyramids, 1914. The heavens, oh my, well. The heavens, the zodiac belt. What I'm trying to say, because I'm saying this in confidence. There ain't no human being that walk this planet here that can tell me that Haile Selassie the First is not the Most High. The Most High. Listen to me good now, man. I'm not asking, I'm not wondering. I am using our African philosophy. And no matter which one you pull up, even if it's the Dogons and the Nomo, because we have done a program on that as well. And of course, everyone that's a subscriber would have definitely had a copy of that. When we showed you the Nomo science and how it relates to Rastafari. My point is that all your holy scriptures, you hear me? All your holy scriptures, all your holy writings, all your holy theology and philosophy, and even if none of these existed, it didn't mean nothing, or it wouldn't mean anything. Because the stars tell the stories. The 19th Psalm says, the heavens declare the glory of God. The 19th Psalm says, the firmament show it is handiwork. So we use the heavens and we see Haile Selassie. Undeniable. There ain't nobody that can deny this. Nobody. Either you, you're either with us or you're not with us. I'm being very clear. There ain't nobody that can deny this. Man, if we cut a seed in two, we can dissect it and show you the divinity of Haile Selassie. You listening? We can take a grain of sand and crush it and put it under the microscope and say, look, the king there. Every Rasta know that Haile Selassie pictures in the moon. Wow. Where else are we going from here? So it is obvious that the divinity of Haile Selassie is sure. No human being can deny that. And I don't want to be playing with nobody because I don't have no time. Straight up, a lot of people be dodging. A lot of people have a lot of big things to say, especially, I ain't going to call no names. You have heard me address them. And now when you try to even contact them to clear up what they're saying, and they dodge you and run around because they know that they can't. No matter what they tried to say about Haile Selassie the First, pure in every way. You understand? All right. So his divinity is sure. Yes, Ras, his divinity is sure, but I disagree with you when you say he is the Almighty. When I say that? You just said that like a while. I just said that like a while. No, man, I never said that. Man, I just say Haile Selassie is the Almighty. You sure you want, I'm not a betting man, but you want to bet, you want to put some money in that? Man, if you rewind, brother, I hear you saying, nobody can tell you Haile Selassie is not the Most High. Or the Most High. Okay. Now, the Most High could be slightly different than the Almighty. Huh? Okay. Now, in the beginning of this program, I took time to explain the understanding of the intelligent nucleus. I ain't playing ping pong, you know. I hate ping pong discussions. And we leave it on this little level and, when Haile Selassie went to Jamaica, he was not in Ethiopia anymore. So how could he be omnipresent? Like, wow. I mean, come on. I mean, you're right, you know, but them discussions is real. Come on, we supposed to be bigger than that. What kind of talk is that? That sounds like a baby talking. Oh, he went in the room, so he wasn't outside anymore. How could he be omnipresent? Wow. That is sick. That is real sick. Man, you personally, wherever you are now, man, I don't even know if I should show you them things. You could be somewhere else too. Wait, you don't understand that science? What do you think happens when you go to dream and you go to sleep and all of these different things? Astral projection, there are other projections that take place and you don't have to be sleeping, you know. I just mentioned parallel worlds and different dimensions. But anyway, let me just stick to it on this level. Again, our ancient African tradition, even Christianity, has always showed us of the host. Have you ever heard of the Lord of Hosts? The Lord of Hosts is the chief of the hosts. That's why when Enoch went up and he saw the Lord on the seventh heaven, he was ready to sit down and get comfortable, take off his shoes and say, well, I'm here. But they said, no, there's someone else to see. And he is on the 10th heaven. What? And Enoch went and saw him. Enoch thought that he saw it all, but there was more to see. He went and he sat down with the Most High. Now you may say, well, he sat down with the Almighty. Okay, fair enough. I would agree with that too, especially taking the book in all aspects, including its allegorical level, going up to the 10th heaven, the crown chakra, the purple zone, and speaking to the Most High after passing the Lord on the brow chakra. Oh, yeah. That's why purple food is good for your brain and for your pineal gland, you know, purple cabbage and these purple food and purple eggplant and all them different things. Yeah, just a kind of side note there for you to understand. Very good. Purple haze. Very good for your brain, your thoughts, your meditation, your focus. Purple foods. So I'm showing you that in all traditions, we always have a pantheon. And of this pantheon of quote-unquote gods, there's always the chief god. I'm just using the language. So the Osiris character and the Amun-Ra character, and so them is the chief god, just for an understanding. Because you see the quote-unquote God concept, God is flesh. God ain't invisible, you know. Even the unseen no mean is invisible. The wind can't be really seen, but the wind is there. The wind can push you over and blow you and throw you over a house roof. I've seen it. So the wind is there, it's tangible, it's there. It can be touched, not because you can't see it. So in the realms of the gods, and in the realms of the Orisha, and in the realms of the Neter, and the Netaru and the what you call them, the angels, in the realms of Allah and his 99 attributes, there's always a chief. There's always the head, the Lord of Hosts. And then in the ranks, you see the Lord of Hosts has his archangel or his archangels. Coming down the line, you have the different ranks of angels again. But above them all, the King of Angels is considered the Most High. So I'm saying, Follow me good, no man, please. Follow me good. I am saying that in the unseen realms, there are entities that you don't even know exist. Let's not forget our ancestors, especially those that were close to us that have passed on. They're right there. And they are communicating with you. Maybe you're not listening, but trust me, they are communicating with you and they are right there. They're entity and beings that are around us that we can't even see, whether you believe it or not. And that's just that level. But in the cosmos of authority, there are principles that exist. And the principles is not just good and sharing and caring. They are principles of existence. Please listen to me. They are principles of existence. They are principles that govern love. They are principles that govern balance. That's why you have constellations like a scale, constellation like a scorpion, constellation like a slayer with a bow and arrow, because all of these represents the principles as well that exist. They emanate from that intelligent source. And these principles are the same principles that we have brought into human form, and we have expressed them as human beings and given them name. In some cases, we express them as an animal. But I personally am here today to say that these principles do manifestate themselves or manifest themselves in real living people. And a prime example is Kepra. We showed you how we connected Kepra to Haile Selassie. If you haven't seen that video, you should go and watch that. We showed you how we connected Kepra to Haile Selassie. The same thing can be done with Anubis, the night of the black tiger. Look out for the night. The night of the black tiger itself, we showed without a shadow of a doubt that Marcus Messiah Garvey is the jackal-headed Anubis Ampu on the wall. No one can deny this. Nobody. So when you understand these human beings have fulfilled perfectly the principles of Anpu, the principles of Kepra, the principle of Heru, human beings have walked the planet that has fulfilled the principles of these Netaru, so-called gods. And in the same way, amongst these gods, you have the chief gods. Okay, so for example, in the Hall of Judgment, according to the papyri of Ani, when they come to the Hall of Judgment, they get their heart weighed on the scale, and Ma'at is on the scale, and you have Tahuti, the thought, the Ibis, and next god, the god of wisdom, the god of writing, and he's keeping the records, while Anpu or Anubis is judging your heart with the feather. And then after that session, here comes Heru to come and initiate you and to bring you into a higher realms. And after that session, Heru comes and brings you before Asa, and you kneel down before Asa, and that is the end of the story. That's like Enoch. Heru was the seventh heaven, but when he came to the 10th heaven, he kneeled down before Asa or Osiris, which is the Sahu, the Orion constellation. So to me, according to that theology, Osiris is the chief god, isn't it? Osiris is the Most High, the head honcho again. Now it's not just Osiris. I know when we link Osiris with Haile Selassie, a lot of people are like, wow, that's real something. But it's more than Osiris. Again, Jupiter. We have a whole lecture we do on Jupiter alone, man, and show you that Jupiter, although it's the biggest planet, it represents the smallest man. Jupiter is the god. Jupiter is the god of the planets. Jupiter represents Haile Selassie again, and we can prove it. Not just saying so because we feel like we want to give the king all the positions in, but the planet Jupiter in its orbit and its magnetic field, oh my goodness, alone, when you dissect it and understand it properly, one day we'll get there, is Negus and Nagas that pop out all the time. See what I'm saying? And that's just the reality of it. The chief planet. So I'm saying that there are many divine beings. There are many divine beings, some of which have come through in my time, if you want to call it that I can identify. Not just the prophet, priest, the king, and the empress, and Idi Amin. There are some other divine beings that I can put my hand on and show you them in prophecy and say, there they are. But I'm telling you, from my understanding of all the divine beings, because they're not just divine, you can connect them with the divinity that they are connected to, if you want to say that. And you see them in different theology, because Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma may represent somebody else in another theology. You understand? Peter and James and John, Pata, Sakar, they represent others in a different, Ganesha and all of these different things. Ganesha is somebody else in another theology. Ganesha is what Ganesha is now, I think is an elephant. No elephant head, no body there ruling over nowhere. Ganesha is a literal human being, a mighty mother or father, whatever Lord Ganesha is. Lord, yeah, well, who is the mother? I think it's Lakshmi, whatever the case is. These principles, Ma'at, these principles are seen in different lights, given different names by different cultures, but they all represent that one principle. And as I said, it's more than just a principle, like morality kind of stuff. When we say principle, we think it's morality alone. It's not just that level of principle. The principle of creation. That's why in one form you call the God figure the sustainer, the creator, the life giver, and the merciful. That's why these different attributes are given, because they are the principles. They are principles that govern these things. Universally, there's a principle that governs birth. There's a principle that governs death, of course. That's why in some primitive form we would say the god of the wind and the god of rain and the god of earthquake and all kind of different things, because they have their own principles as well. That's how deep the stuff gets. So when we speak of God and the Lord, and so just taking it on the level we've been giving it is very, very, very bland. You're like, oh, it's not going anywhere. But when you look at it from the Afrocentric perspective and then couple it with the reality that the unseen will become seen. Come on. That is why we glorify Haile Selassie. This is a special time. As one person said, Vaughan Benjamin said, born in the time. This is a special time. Don't try to disrespect the time. This is a unique time. So I personally see that Haile Selassie I, more than anyone else, fulfills in his divine form that principle of the chief principle, the head God, the most high. And that's why the 87th Psalm says, and the highest himself, that's what they refer to him as, the highest himself shall establish Ethiopia. So he is seen, because the prophecy of Psalms 87, check the Master of Ceremonies. The prophecy of Psalms 87 is speaking of Haile Selassie, I think we all would agree. And he refers to him as the highest himself. Now, I'm just saying, you got to keep in mind too, this thing about, His Majesty, or to be honest, or anyone not knowing everything and all of that. I'm not saying anybody knows everything. And I mean, that's reality. When you understand Haile Selassie, His Majesty himself tell you the things, he didn't know, and he tell you that I didn't know. And so, I mean, come on, we're not going crazy here. But what I'm trying to show you though, is that even you personally listening to me, before you came here, you already set up your coming. You set it up. You just don't remember. Some cosmics say that we choose our parents. I don't doubt it. You just don't remember. You say, well, where you want to come, when you want to come, and whatever obstacles you purposely want to put in your way so you could overcome them. You just don't remember. And now you're vexed with the obstacles. Boy, life too hard. Never not knowing that you in the spiritual realms, because you are a God being, but you just don't remember. That's the vibes. We don't remember. We come into this third dimension and we forget. So the fight is now to try to remember who we are in the unseen world before you go back to the essence. That's the reality of it. So all of us are higher than we think. All of us. So don't get caught up in you don't know everything. You may not know everything, but there are things you should know that you don't know. That's for sure. There are things that you know or you should know that you don't know. Now my answer to the Almighty thing is now, because you should by now see the difference between the Most High and the Almighty. The Most High clearly shows you that this Most High is the highest of the hosts, the Lord of hosts. So there's a whole host. But in this is the parliament of the universe, But the Lord of hosts is the top of the host. So then the Lord of hosts must be the Almighty. Well, we will look at it like that. But I always like to say, if Haile Selassie is not the Almighty, there is no Almighty. Like, what? You see, in my book, there's nothing higher than Haile Selassie. Whether you can see it or you can't see it, there's nothing higher than the king. Negus and Nagas. Not because I want to feel some euphoric vibes by saying that, but I've diligently studied the prophecy. And then outside of the prophecy, I studied the man. And I am, again, to use that word, I'm convinced that there's nothing, whether you can see it or you can't see it, that supersedes that human being. And that's just me. And again, I know I have the prophecies, not of the Bible alone, man. All the prophecies from every corner of the world. Bring Easter Island and let's talk. All the prophecies of all over the world point straight to the Most High, the chief, the head honcho, and it's Haile Selassie the first. Now the Almighty is said to be all-encompassing. The Almighty is everything, isn't it? All things. That's how we began the conversation. We're talking about cells. And we're talking about every strand of hair. And we're talking, the hair have cells to it, man. And we're talking about the leaf on the tree and everything that exists, wherever it may be in the corner of the universe. And the parallel worlds. And the what you call them, the different dimensions. We went through all of that, didn't we? Right. The Almighty governs all of this. But this Almighty is a nucleus of intelligence. So you want to say it's invisible? No, it's in all things. It is in all things. And it dwells in all things. Not just the Most High, but all things. But the Most High himself, whether in the seen or the unseen, for sure, is directly connected to that nucleus That is why I say again, if Haile Selassie is not the Almighty in a human form in flesh, well, the concept of the Almighty, you can put it aside. That's all. But if you're going to bring up a concept like there is an Almighty, well, that's him. If it's not him, well, there ain't no Almighty. Then we just resort to Most High. Yeah, and leave it at that. Because the Most High and everything else, it may sound strange, but down to the most low, is all a part of that intelligent nucleus that governs everything. That nucleus that you've never seen, but yet you see it all the time. That's why Bible scripture could tell you how you love God you never see, and you hate your brother when you look right in his face. There you go again. That God represents that nucleus that you really can't see it, but you can see it. You can't touch it, but you can touch it. You can't smell it, but you can smell it, because it is in nature. Nature is its best representative. But then again, what is nature? Anything that's natural. You ain't got to go into the forest to see nature, or into the Amazon or the jungle. Nature is right there. The dirt is nature. You are nature. You're directly connected. You are nature. The cloud, nature. Everything that is natural is nature. And that is why you find the Almighty in the natural things. That's why Rastafari is natural and nature and nature. The Medu, nature. Yeah. And that is the Almighty that dwells in nature. Not just the forest. Nature is all things. All them stars you see and beyond them. The Almighty is all presence, because it's an intelligence. But me personally, I don't see it impossible for the Almighty intelligence to occupy an army of people, 3 people, 5 people, or 1 person. And that is why, for those of you who are Selassie believers and say you hail the king, but you're hailing the king some kind of side way and you're not too sure and them kind of thing, get over that now, man. You self say his name means head, creator. Were you lying to us? His name means the power and the might of the Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity represents God, and he now of the tree, which again, to me, that's the next thing that shows very mystic, because he doesn't say, the name doesn't mean Holy Trinity. You know, Selassie is Trinity, but Haile Selassie is the power and might of. The conjunction of alone shows you that of the 3, he in his persona is the head of the 3. So there are 2 others with him. No, me to believe in them. You tell me you try to say Marcus guy. Hold on, I didn't say anything. At least not here. Let's keep the discussion civil. I'm dealing with the etymology. The power and might of the Holy Trinity means that there are 3 beings, and this person is the head of the 3. He's not all 3, according to what his name means. And some of you are going to get lost in belief, but that's what his name means, that he is the power of the tree. So you can figure out who the other 2 in the tree is, but for now we know that he's the head of the tree. And the tree represents God then, if you want to use the term God. The Almighty, isn't it? He's the power and might of the tree. So he must be the Most High God. He must be the Lord of hosts. There ain't nobody that can top Kadamawe Haile Selassie the first. No one. And if you can find it, bring it. Because I know we're going to say, well, you know, God dwells in us all. I just explained all of that. You ain't got to throw that at me. You ain't got to throw that at me. I already went through that. Anyone, and not unless you're just joining, anyone that listened to this from the beginning would have a clear understanding of the cosmos and how it relates now to what is seen on this third dimensional stage. So a lot of the people we call prophets and our Abrahams and our Solomon and our Prophet Muhammad and you know and even with Prophet Muhammad, what's his name? You know, Bilal and all of these ones. Even in the Quran it says that Gabriel appeared unto Miriam like a well-dressed man. So all of these different vibes shows us, even in the allegory which still comes into actuality, that we all, not just angels, we are all from different dimensions having a human experience. We all, straight up. And again, most of us have forgotten, and that's why some of our chief gods have to come in the form of prophets and in the form of seers and messengers and other things to remind us of who we are. That's the mystic of it. This is so wonderful, man, when you understand that realms, you know. I ain't telling nobody to follow, but when I kneel and pray, it's Haile Selassie I call. I don't know who you call, but I call unto Nekusemekas, Holy Emmanueli Selassie, Jah Rastafari. Listen, man.
Yeah, well, even the 2000 years still, all of these things being plagiarized, you know. But you have Christ before even 2000 years, you know. True. Well, his father named Asar, you know, and his mother named Aset. You see, so, you know, most of these things being plagiarized from there, you know, so at the black mother, you know, and then could go around black Christ and try to put it now to the white. That the Christ white from the 2000 years. But we the mark time from that's mark the star the Dogon star.
Really serious.
The Dogon star. So that time, yeah, you know, that time was 2018 to 2018 now. Yeah, 2018 not 2018. That is Babylon time of the birth of an individual. But when we do mark time was 7,000 years ago when the star rise, you know. So when in the land now, we don't have anything from the sea.
Okay. Anything at all?
No, you don't, even the sea map. You know it at this time. So your temperature feel a little weak. This time, but it's a building. You see, it's a building, you know, so that little weakness don't watch it. If you can inherit it to that Good Friday, if I feel like you don't want to go and come out, the powers that you feel now.
But now like now we doing there 12 to 2. You know, so man. So but any specific reason why I stick to that one?
Yeah, because when Jamaica moved now, the man they never serious. When I look for my brethren, them who was 12 to 2, because we all start there.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do a couple of weeks and look after I catch them teaching. So I say, I'm going to do it like how I don't know Jai used to do it.
So how that was a whole break stuff. So how Jai used to do it?
Many services that and I when we join on the altar and all these things upon place and things.
Yeah.
With my service and all these things.
And the altar with the father.
That's right. And the whole thing because more time just to avoid when I have some fasting and coconut water with them. See? The man say a miracle that work. And you see to the amount of people.
Okay, say that again. You know, give me that one more time. Have some fast with
coconut water.
Jelly?
Jelly water. Jelly coconut.
Break the fast with it.
Yeah. When hour come, break fast, jelly coconut water they use to break fast. And then a piece of yes, all the type of prayer and fasting we go to the Father, and I see as man say a miracle just work more time because the amount of people and children everybody will gather to go to fast there and make them more than just might have a half dozen jelly or maybe more than that. You see what I say? But yeah, but it's everyone get a tip on them tongue, you see it, and quench them thirst, you see it. So all these kind of fasting that run down and you see it. Many standards just set and lift up the thing even higher and higher every time, you see it.
Comes to fast and pray and go through the God. And no 40-day fast and pray. Message I run fast and pray up there for 2 years straight, you know. As one fasting come
2 years?
2 years straight.
For 2 years?
Yeah.
And service not coming down.
And service not come down.
Yes.
Yeah. As one fasting come down, the virgin of my show.
You said the 3 months may be the record.
Yeah? 3 months?
Yeah.
Nah man, 2 years straight. As one fasting come down, the virgin of my said, Jah, we feel like Jah, we come like we go up on it again. And Jah say, yeah man, by Wednesday, no? We'll start again, you know?
And it come down, man, and feel so powerful.